We are calling to order the meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the Brattleboro Housing Partnerships. It is May 20th, 2024. And we're at Ledgewood Heights. Yeah, our first order of business is to tour the beautiful Ledgewood Heights playground.
Great. So welcome everybody. We had a huge celebration last Friday that was very successful. We had an ice cream party and we had over 65 participants, and we had lots of ice cream, which was delicious, from the Blueberry House. So if you look, first of all, we have this, we have a really nice youth artist mural that was created with the help of the Art in the Neighborhood program by Ledgewood Heights youth artists. And then if you look around, we have multiple play structures. So we have this huge climbing structure that ends with a big slide. You can start on over there and start climbing up, going through the little fort at the top, going over through the wall, which has a climbing wall, and then onto this. We also have a climbing spinning cone in the back, some swings, a smaller play area for smaller children. And then we also are we have a new pavilion. So the pavilion will be used for Art in the Neighborhood programs and other community programs. That's Jake Bursky, our SASH for All coordinator. And then on the blacktop, we have area for kids to ride bikes, smaller little bikes for smaller kids, skateboards, or potentially roller skates. And we're gonna have a big, huge hopscotch 4 squares in that area too. That's gonna be painted on the blacktop. So we're really excited to have this, and you wouldn't know it today because there's no kids here, but the other day we had a ton of kids, and they're feeling like they really love it.
Moved into the Ledgewood Heights Community Room to review the minutes from the April 22nd, 2024 meeting. Any questions? Motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the April 22nd, 2024 meeting.
And second? Gary, would you second the motion?
I will second that.
Thank you, and all approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And staff reports review, executive directors.
No, we're gonna do, sorry.
Mhm.
We need to do resident participation.
I stepped over that. Resident and citizen participation. This is a time for residents here to ask questions or share comments. Now's the time to do that. After we close that, we'll go on with the rest of the meeting.
Do you want me to ask questions?
So do you have anything that, if you wanted to ask something or say, participate, this is the time to do it, and then we're gonna close that, and then that will be closed for the rest of the meeting.
Okay. Is it problems I have over at Red Clover?
It's whatever you wanted to add it's whatever you wanted to share for this meeting. So if you wanted to share something, this is the open meeting, this is the open time for you to share it.
Okay. I said before, we need activities in the community room going. We want our coffee hour back on Fridays.
Mhm.
The TV to work functionally without 2 clickers.
Mhm.
I don't know where they are, I haven't been in it. Let's keep the AC the way it is, don't lower it any more than that. Because it's good to get out of the heat and in a cold room, okay? Let's see. And we'd like to have meetings with the fire department and the police department to fill us in how to keep us safe in both sections, fire and the police department. Want to keep this place safe, and that's good. And I think that's all I have to say.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. Thank you very much for participating.
Okay, when did they they closed it because of COVID, didn't they? Did they have a COVID outbreak over there?
No, it was open after
It was
COVID,
open.
but it was run by a resident, and people were having a hard time with it. So we wanted Linda, the new SASH person, to take over. Without there'll be no problem if SASH person takes over. Instead of a resident.
Right.
And the SASH person to control what games we can play, get the community back together.
Okay, that's what, because they had said it was closed, so, because our building has the SASH coordinator, does it?
So I'm hoping the SASH coordinator gets right in and get the coffees back and get some community activities going.
You need it, you really need it.
Yes, we do.
So the community room is open.
Okay, they
It
just
is
don't
open,
have
it's
anything
just that we
going on.
don't have, we have blood pressure clinics, things like that, bone builders, but we don't have these other activities
Right,
because we were just seeing that we were seeing an increase in resident conflict
Okay,
and we didn't have the staffing at the time to really manage that. So now we have a full-time person who's dedicated to resident services in that building, and so
Right.
they will be slowly starting to roll out some programmings very intentionally to do it in a way that minimizes that resident conflict.
right, yeah.
There'd be like a movie night. Somebody can bring in a movie and one of the staff can play it for us. I think, was it you, Jake? Is she here?
He's
Okay. Picked out a movie, I had a bunch of movies and watched it.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did some matinees.
Yeah. So I'd like to see that again.
Mhm.
In the high rise, when I used to live there, Lorelei allowed us to have popcorn or some snack while you have a movie.
We have done that over the years.
We're doing that. I think we're planting flowers or something. We have something two-season Fridays on, and there's something going on. Of course, there's conflict, there always will be, but,
Yeah,
no, and it's good to get everybody together. It's,
I would like that again,
it would be good.
yes.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Staff reports review, executive director's report, the strategic plan, interim report.
Sure. So does anybody have any questions about my report? Let's do this piece first. I don't know if anybody had any questions about this. And then, right,
It was great. It was just great to see it all in one place. Oh my gosh. What a lot of work.
So we just finished the second year of our 5-year strategic plan.
Excuse me.
And so how I sort of laid it out for you was to go through each of the areas that we were looking to, all of the goals and objectives, and then outlining in red what we, what we've done so far and maybe what needs to continue to get done. And then at the end, there are some metrics, so we were able to clearly, outline in red the metrics of where we were at and, what the numbers were for each of the goals and objectives. So considering we're only 2 years in, we've done a lot. I mean, we've met a lot of the goals, which is great. And so really thinking with the board, as we continue, how we want to, if we wanted to go back in early for the strategic, really thinking about what the board would like to do. I mean, we're not due to really start another strategic planning process for some time. About 2 years, we'll be beginning it. So thinking about in the interim, what are some other goals and objectives we'd like to work on. There are some things that need to be still done that are pretty big, like capital improvement plans for some of the properties. We need to get energy audits at some of the RAD properties. We have started the development of Melrose, and that could potentially lead to some real redevelopment on some of the other property sites, so thinking about that. We also are, we also need to do surveys, so resident surveys. So I think this is the time plan to do again resident surveys. We did resident surveys when we created the plan, and then we'll do resident surveys again this year, and then doing resident surveys in 2 years. So I think for the board to really think about what information they're really wanting to get from the residents, I think would be helpful.
Is there anything in particular on the plan that seems like really unattainable, or that it maybe should get evaluated or something?
Well, one thing I think that is a little hard to evaluate are the complaints. You know, we all of the complaints we get, we categorize in terms of year, property, but we don't subcategorize them when we keep them. You know, because so we don't say like, okay, this is all the smoking, this is all this is all this. And it would be great to do that. I just don't think we have the bandwidth to organize it. It's just like, it's a lot to keep track of, because a lot of them are primarily resident on resident complaints. You know, that's what we saw the first time, that's what we're continuing to see. 90% are really resident on resident, like, not resident on resident, but resident complaining about another resident. Like, this person's behavior isn't following the rules. This person's behavior isn't doing this. And so we've seen a huge increase in them, like we just have over the last year. So we've seen them much more. But I think we're also being more vigilant about saying to residents, like, we have to put it in writing, like we need it in writing. So I think that feels a little bit like it's a huge task. Like when I was pulling the data, I was thinking I would just sit down one day and look at and figure it all out. And I was like, this is gonna take me a month to like cultivate all of this. So I think talking about it with the property managers and seeing like, we have a system, but like, do we need to improve that system? And how much time does that really take? I mean, we address every complaint,
Right.
but we don't really have a way of tracking what each thing is. And
So there's no mechanism in place that's set up for a breakdown of when was resolved, you know, or if it hasn't, you know,
Yeah, I mean, outside of knowing like if it isn't resolved, then if it's continuing, then we continue to have those, you know, we continue to have those letters, but we just don't have it's really, I don't know, we don't have a system really to do that. And it feels like what we have now is good because at least we know what is that they're being addressed. But I think diving into that, like we really sat down and when we did the strategic plan and we had one person do it for like a week, like looking through them to then pull that data. And that might be what we'd like to do. I just don't know if that's something that's sustainable to do like each year. It just takes a lot of time.
Right, systematically, could be the same people, persons, or what, I mean.
That's what we found. It's like most of it is like about like the same 6 people.
And it's like, do I want to
or the
keep
same
putting
6
that?
households.
Right.
Well, I could give you an example. I had
Well,
my,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
well,
So
I
we're
was
not
thinking
taking
this.
resident participation right now, but we can open it up after the board has that discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, and I understand that, you know, when you're having that type of communication, you know, trying to relay and try to, you know, figure out, you're sitting down and you have an analytical system set up where it's like, well, this is repeat, rinse, wash, and it's like the same. So do you keep recycling the same thing over? And that can become tedious, and I understand that, you know, it's the same, you know, issue, but it gets addressed, and I do believe you guys are on top of that, you know. And
So if it's like a property issue, then it gets addressed. If it's like a work order, then it gets addressed. If it's, you know, and there might be some things, you know, maybe it's a lease violation, it gets addressed. But so I would say that out of all of the data that I was looking at, that seems to be the hardest one for us to probably really look at. But it's important because we want to see, I mean, we learned a lot from the complaints when we did the strategic plan, we came up with a lot of those markers, so I think it's important. I think that it's I just wanted to make the board aware that it is.
So to hire somebody to do it voluntarily versus paying or
Well, it is confidential information, right? So we can't
Exactly.
volunteer to it. It's
So,
confidential.
right, so that's the
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
you can't do that, so
Yeah.
for someone in this group to sit down literally and to, yeah,
Yeah, it would have to be a staff person.
Yeah.
So I think coming up with
right,
what that looks like. So that was something that came out of this, and it's a conversation I'm having with the property managers.
right,
The other thing that we are working on is a eviction prevention program. So working with the property managers, they've gotten some real good information. One of our properties managers went to the resident service conference for New England, and she got some great information about how to prevent lease terminations and how to prevent evictions and what that looks like. And so we're starting to look at that information and learn from that plan, and then potentially what we want to do is bring in some of our partners like Sevka, Groundworks, and to have them work with us in this plan going forward, because most of the referrals we make that prevent evictions
right.
are to Sevka, because most of them are financial related. They're for people who owe back rent. And so really thinking about how to create a program with them so that they can clearly understand, what the work we're doing, and for them to offer guidance as well.
So that would be like with economic services, they also contribute as well too, anything back or old, I mean, sometimes they can, if it's in the budget, it's more like you said with Sevka and Groundworks.
It's mostly Sevka.
Yeah,
And Groundworks doesn't give resident funds, but they could be potentially work with us in terms of
right.
some of that prevention.
One of the examples about your survey are the washing machines. We were getting hours there, they brought them out, and I've been there 18 years, I don't think they've changed them, so that was, we need new washing machines and dryers, because you might have had 2 or 3 down at the same time, and we have 60.
It was over, yeah.
So that's something and it's happening.
And that goes to some of the capital planning that we did. We identified certain projects that needed to get done, and that's one of the ones that needed to get done. Another one was the playground that we really didn't have in the budget, so we had to raise money for it through the Brattleboro Housing Opportunities, Inc. But we knew that was a critical, vital project that needed to get done.
It's too bad that the public didn't come to see that, because I've never seen so many happy kids in my life.
It was really
And of course, I got free ice cream too.
No,
They were just beaming to see the kids out there, big ones, little ones, and I was fascinated by what has been done for the children, because they really need it. Keeps them off the streets. They really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really
So
nice.
that was one that really worked.
And I like this thing that you have here for housing sustainability, which 10 evictions avoided, that says it right there, I mean, pretty much,
For the SASH for All
Yeah.
program?
Yeah.
what a turnaround, that's good.
So other than that, I think, I'm trying to think, we don't have a lot of volunteers on sites at this point still, so that's an area to work on.
Now, when you say volunteers, for,
One of the markers for the program is to bring more either resident volunteers or bring outside volunteers. And I'm trying to think of where it was, let me see.
To do what?
It's under number 3.
Yep, analyze and reorganize staffing structure.
number 3? Oh, page 3.
Nope, foster resident organization.
Page 4.
Resident organizational and community resilience.
Page 4.
Ah, here we are.
So one of the metrics was bringing in, having more more volunteers on the program, so I'd have to go back and look and see.
There's another piece about number of housing units with supportive services for aging created.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was, sort of spelled out a little bit more. clearly
Yeah.
earlier and.
And then also potentially people aging out of the foster system. So that's another one. How would we go about creating those housings? Do we want to create specific housing for specific populations? That was one of the markers in the strategic plan. So thinking about what that looks like. Right now we have 2 units set aside for youth services with a permanent supported with a project-based voucher at a Wyndham Windsor building, but we don't have anything within our portfolio for that. And as we redevelop, is that something we want to do? Do we want to set aside 2 units or certain units for that type of, specifically for that type of housing? But I was really amazed by just the overall hours of training. I think that we did put a lot of effort into that, so that really showed.
Yeah, I'm working on some kind of lunch and learner retreat for the board members.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah.
The Ledgewood Heights Playground press release.
Let's see.
The white page before the blue page.
Oh. Before the blue page.
Right there. Looks like this. I know there's a lot less colored paper. I know.
I had to read this in chunks.
Well, you go
over
right
the
ahead,
last week,
I'll catch up.
I had no changes to make, I thought it looked great.
Okay, that's fine.
Again, just gratitude for the, all the parts of it, but the donors and to Jeanette for working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Lorelei for keeping it on our radar. She kept pushing, so that helps. It's so easy to get caught up in other work, and so she kept it really on the radar. So that was good.
All right, for the July 5th closure, considering closing the BHP office on July 5th for BHP staff appreciation. Do you have any comments on that?
Nope. That's normal.
What'd you say?
That's normal.
Yeah.
Gotta show that
A motion to
appreciation.
approve to close the BHP office on July 5th for BHP staff appreciation.
I move that motion.
And I second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
I'm sure the staff will greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well appreciated.
They have been working really hard in the last for the last forever, but yeah, definitely with the playground and moving mulch all day and all of those things. I think that will be really appreciated.
Ice cream.
Property review and property managers report. Any comments?
That's your blue one, right?
That's the blue one.
I know the numbers look higher to me, but seems good.
Yeah, the percentages are higher, which is huge. I think this is the first time, so we really are seeing, I want to say the one that really always sticks out to me is Moore Court has gone up a lot. We're now at 70%, which is huge. We're still pretty low at Ledgewood, but we have some really, really big balances that are just offsetting that. So we're working on it. We're definitely working on it, but it's great to see that Moore Court is up and a lot of the other sites are up as well. So that's really good news.
It's the economy.
It is.
It's the economy. And especially your families. Yeah, it's a lot of it, I think, is the economy. At the end of the day, we're going to pay. It's sad.
the resident wellness and services report, the SASH flash and the LEAP newsletter.
And Jake is here. Jake Bursky is here, who is the SASH for All coordinator. I don't know if you know.
I'll swing up there.
And so Jake works at Ledgewood Heights and Moore Court, coordinating the SASH for All pilot project. So he graciously volunteered to be here today and to talk a little bit about that program. And also I shared with the board.
Oh, hey, look at that beardy boy right there. That's good.
Do you want to say a few words about maybe highlights, point us at 2 or 3 things that you really want us to look at?
In this, in the handout? Boy, I wish I was better acquainted with this. Well, I mean, I think the first thing right here, honestly, I can't speak to it myself, but this QR code here goes directly to one of my favorite stories that's happened so far in my work. There was a family that I worked with where an individual had been in and out of the motel shelter program. She had been living with BHP housing, and life happens, right? Some bad stuff happened to the family, and they had some pretty significant arrears, and this person was all in. She showed up at the office. She said, hey, I really need help. I said, well, as a matter of fact, I know a couple people that can help, but the most important thing was the participation. So all I had to do was just kind of draw the map, and she really did all the heavy lifting for that. So that was super poignant for me. I think something else that is really special to me is that we are having folks continue to sign their use and disclosures. So initially, when we were solving problems, it was really based on emergent need. And I had some really deep-seated concerns of like, okay, so once the problem is solved, who's to say that they're gonna want to continue to work with the program? They're like, okay, cool, you paid my back rent, see ya. And that is not actually what happened. People are continuing to utilize the support of the program. So that shows that we're starting to get integrated into the communities that we serve, which again, that's really special. I think also something that's really starting to come out in time is the resident participation. So having residents really recognize that we are an asset to them and that they can come to us with really big ideas and we can help break it down into manageable parts. Feels really good. So we have like one example of upcoming programming with Rescue. We're gonna set aside a time where we can basically do outreach for education and employment at VIII. And they're gonna send a van down, they're gonna pick up kids and potentially parents that are interested in learning more about their program.
What's
Go up.
that? Sorry.
Yeah, good call. It is the Vermont EMS Academy, run by Rescue Inc. up in Newfane there. So yeah, that was all brought up by a resident who was like, we need to give these kids something to do, we need to point people toward gainful employment, and it feels really special that they're starting to take initiative and come up with their own stuff, and it's not just me being like, hey, I think this would be a good idea, but they're really like, they're getting creative and really inventive with the support that they have.
It's good.
Yeah.
That's a part of it, being part of the, the community.
Yeah.
If you want to get involved and come up with, great ideas.
Yeah.
This is good.
Right. And I think another really unique opportunity, just while I have some space. Today during the resident advisory meeting, we talked about getting some cross-pollination between the sites, right? So I know that I've kind of stirred this concept before, but we have a bunch of families and children living here at Ledgewood Heights, and just down the way, we have Red Clover Commons. Much in the same way, we have Moore Court. Just down the way, we have Sam Elliott. It's not so much of an interchange with Hayes Court, but the long and short of it is that we have all sorts of programs going on at both sites that could really benefit folks that don't necessarily live at that particular mailing address,
Right.
but would still be really interested to participate in the playground opening.
Absolutely.
There are probably some folks down at Red Clover that would want to hop on a swing, you know what I mean? And vice versa, if there's cool stuff going on at Red Clover, there's no reason that folks here shouldn't be able to participate. So part of what I'm going to be doing during the resident services meetings upcoming is trying to make sure that our group calendars are shared and having a place at each property where we have that stuff posted so that people here know what's happening at Red Clover or Sam Elliott and vice versa. So hopefully kind of integrating the BHP community as an overall and eliminating a little bit of that sort of siloed feel. And part of it is like the geography of the places that we serve. Ledgewood is tucked away, Moore Court is tucked away, Hayes Court is tucked away.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're in their little corners. So ideally kind of cultivating that sense of community and belonging is,
I like that.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited.
just removing fences and opening it up,
Yeah, man,
which I love.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm really excited.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions about the resident wellness and services report?
Oh, yeah, this thing that we're now for the summer, what is it basically? I was trying to see what the kiddos have coming up. Do they have anything going on as far as anything recreational?
Yeah, so honestly, the programming focused specifically toward children is going to be a little sparse for the upcoming year. It's a delicate balance. You know, we spent a lot of time offering and cultivating programming for the winter and didn't really see significant participation. So it's really more of an informational approach at this point. So getting kids connected with, you know, the Boys and Girls Club, pretty great organization here in the town of Brattleboro. And then providing information about summer camps and other stuff like that, trying to get families connected with financial aid. So not reinventing the wheel. There's really a lot of stuff that happens in the town of Brattleboro already. So like to try to create something fully new and fresh here on the sites may be a little further out. So really just making sure that people are connected with the information and potentially the financial assistance required to participate.
Yeah, and we do pay for kids to go to the Boys and Girls Club. We also pay for pool passes for, you know, families, and so that's
phenomenal.
yeah.
Yeah, because they had something that they just opened up for kids in Harmony Lot. Got the hatch page. Well, it's been there. Places like that. I just didn't know if they had things like, was that the veggie band? Does that come on?
We do the food bank. The food bank comes
Okay.
here. Yep.
That's good. Yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And we do the art in the neighborhood, which is a
Yeah.
regular, you know, sort of regular programming as well.
Right. The only why I say because winters a lot of people don't, but summers once they're out of school.
Right. Well, I mean, I think ideally too, you know, not to say that we don't want to bring stuff here, but families are kind of doing their own thing more during the summer. You know what I mean? They're not quite as tied down. So if they have family elsewhere, then they might travel to go visit people, or you know, it's not quite the same routine. So I think that we see greater participation in like the bulk of the school year outside of the holiday season. So like, you know, September through Thanksgiving, there's a lot of stuff happening on the sites and there's a lot of participation in programming. And then again, from like February through June, there's a lot of participation with programming. But then in those kind of like peak holiday or peak travel seasons, then people are doing their own thing. And by design, that's the way that it should be, right? Like we want folks to have agency and autonomy and independence.
Right. You know, self-sustainability. Well, why I mention that because a lot of, you know, during the summer, people are tight and they can't send the kids to camp.
Sure.
So I just didn't know if there was something that, you know, have something for the youngins to do, creative.
Right.
Outside or I don't know how that just trying to get an idea of what type of a setup with the arts that you do and everything else or anything else, story time or song or something like that, you know, like when I was younger. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our parents look for opportunity, like in the community, to send their kids to these camps. So looking for scholarships or other things like that. So the SASH program can help them fill out those applications or fill out to get that, you know, maybe that assistance if a parent needs support with that. Because there are so many opportunities in the community, and I think a lot of these places do have scholarship programs if kids are interested. And so we've learned over the years that even though our kids, you know, we do have some programming in the summer, but our kids really want to go to the other things that all the other kids in town go to.
Yeah.
And they would like to
Memorial
have those
Park.
opportunities. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because this not too far from me. I went to this go swimming when it's hot and cook out.
And that's why we do the swim program, because we heard from residents that was something that they wanted to do as family members. They wanted to be able to go to the pool. And
Big shout out to Carol too.
Carol a lot. Yeah.
Carol a lot. Yeah, she does a lot for our community. So that partnership for the pool passes, I mean, that was by far the greatest participation that we received. It was like almost 250 of them were distributed through the summer last year. Like got very close to surpassing my allotted budget for that, which, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. And the library does stuff too in the summer,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so
yeah.
which is
Yeah.
great, yeah.
Now, does the rec department have a day camp up at the pool? At one time,
Yeah,
I thought they had.
they do,
a day
yeah,
camp.
yeah.
Now, what about the neighborhood meals? Do they still do the same in the summer? Come places like this to give them,
So,
they have their meals, and the library has it too.
So many
For
people have to
lunches.
sign up for that.
yep, yeah, so there is part of critical mass. Last summer we had the meal deliveries that were on site, and that was facilitated through the school. At one point we had a partnership with the Rotary Club, and that was like it was a big lift. It was ultimately what it came down to is that it was a challenge to get the resident volunteers, right? So we had the Rotary Club lined up. They said, okay, here's a check. We will write it for the maximum amount that we are entitled to write it for. And then when we put out the feelers for, hey, does anybody want to participate and do this thing? Ultimately, the answer was no. We didn't get that participation.
Wow, really?
And part of it comes, like, you got to cultivate that sense of belonging in your community. So if you don't trust your neighbor, love your neighbor, care about your neighbor, then why are you going to make a PB&J for their kid? You know what I mean? So that's part of what we're trying to do right now is really kind of build that sense of belonging and ultimately get back to some more like big picture programming stuff, like the meal program through the Rotary.
Oh, okay, so stimulating that, getting people interested in vested time, that's the key thing.
I mean, that's really the critical mass is finding essentially the volunteer labor, right? Like there are only so many hours in the week, and
It's a big commitment
Yeah.
to make lunch every day for everybody on the housing site. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. So it is nicer when the food gets delivered, but I believe that program was cut, like that they're
Right.
no longer doing the summer lunch program in
Oh,
the town. I believe that was cut on the state level. So.
okay. Wow.
And Brattleboro Housing had been one of the first places to have it here. And the last I heard was that they were no longer doing it through the school department. They weren't doing, I mean, I don't know if you've heard otherwise, but that was what I heard a couple months ago.
yeah,
They
not
weren't
very
doing the
differently.
lunches anymore, so we'll have to see, but I haven't heard anything. Usually they'll let us know and then we'll participate by like signing kids up and making sure
Yeah.
that people get the food who need it, but my understanding is that they weren't. I don't know if the program itself has totally been cut or if the school decided not to do it. So that would be something that we would need to look into for the summer, because it is really important. The kiddos really do the families rely on those lunches.
Yeah, they do, they do.
I had just a question about
Sure.
the emotional wellness clinicians.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if there might be a place for that person to give a report to the board too, like on the FEMA sheets or somewhere else, or how's that going?
So that should be contained in my portion of the board report, kind of a minimal update. Jeff started working directly with participants in like toward the end of March. And then he's starting to ramp up. So I guess the most recent updates we're sharing, he has a small handful of folks that he's doing one-on-ones with on a regular basis. There are a couple families that we've identified that are starting to use his services separately. We have a couple families, which I was so jazzed about this on Thursday. He and I are starting to do kind of like tag team, right? So you have Jeff there to ensure like the therapeutic viability of the work that we're doing, but then I still get to kind of be the orchestrator and making the plans and kind of setting things in place. So I'm like really, really excited for the opportunity to pitch in and do stuff in parallel with Jeff.
Great.
And then I think really like the next hurdle is trying to figure out sort of our critical mass of like what is the maximum number of individuals, families, and then also the shared teamwork with he and I that he can accommodate while also ensuring that his notes are up to date and that he's still able to do his clinical supervision with Kurt at the retreat and that he's still doing his other 20 hours with Wyndham and Windsor and not working way more than he should. So
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
of course.
Yeah, he's only with us for 20 hours a week, and some of that is clinical supervision time. So, but yeah, I think how they usually try to, the wellness nurses and the wellness clinician both give the coordinators their report, and then their task is to put it in. And so until we have like data, let's say, then we would put that separately. Yeah.
That being said, I would be more than happy to accommodate that. Jeff is, he likes to talk about his work. He's
Yeah.
excited about it, so I'm
Yeah.
sure he's pitching
It's
it.
been a real breath of fresh air to have on those sites, so.
Great. All right, Section 8, Administrator Housing Choice Voucher Program, Shelter Plus
Thank
Care.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you. Glad to see Shelter Plus Care moving right along.
It is, and we were just refunded, I just received a notice from HUD today that we were refunded for another year, so that's really good news.
Yeah, great, thank you. All right, financial review. Let's see, we have March 2024 end of fiscal year 2023-2024 comparable.
So all of these, I think I put with your notes, I put into the packets, the end of the year comparable, also the tax credit audits for 2023. We're gonna table them until the next meeting, just because we had a lot on the agenda today, but I wanted you to have them because it's so much information.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to send it to you a week before next meeting, that's when you have it, and then you can really look it over and, yep.
Yeah, well,
And if I can get James, so our next meeting will be at Red Clover Commons, if I can hopefully get James to participate over Zoom at the same time. He might be able to answer questions for us.
Okay. And check signing assignments, June is Commissioner Stroud, July is Commissioner Green in August as well. I think I took September actually.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Great.
Okay, moving right along, projects in progress, Melrose Terrace redevelopment. We have the feasibility report here, some draft highlights. Thank you, I know this took some time to sort of figure out how much to put in and to give enough information to the board and
Yeah, it was nice to whittle it down.
mhm.
So Michelle had been part of the meeting where we reviewed the feasibility report. It was a much longer report, it had a lot more detail, so I just tried to condense the most important pieces.
Yeah.
Any questions about it, or?
So
No, it's a lot.
2030, you said 111 new units, that's what that is, basically?
Potentially,
Cumulative
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so it would be starting at Melrose where we would create 31, and then moving people from Hayes Court to the Melrose, and then creating units, 16 new units there. And then the second part would be moving people from Moore Court to that new development, and then creating an additional 42 units, and then lastly creating 22 more units at that site.
2030, how old will I be?
It takes a long time.
It
Yeah.
does.
Well,
I
when you think
totally
about it, when we
agree, yeah.
started our Red Clover Commons, we started that in 2011.
Yep,
And we moved people in 2016. It felt like it was a million years, while we were doing it, but it was really only 5. And then we redeveloped then we developed the second building, and then we thought, it felt like a long time when we opened that in 2021. It just takes time, and especially when we're looking at some of these older properties,
Right.
it means moving people potentially to other buildings and rehabbing, and but this is the time. If we don't plan for it now,
yeah,
we're not gonna finish it.
that's true. The
So-
finished product speaks for itself, I mean, it's,
I mean, if we
Beautiful.
were able to do this by, what does it say, 2030?
yeah,
If we were to be able to do this in 6 years,
That's
that would be
That's
like
a lot.
moving, it would be a lot.
Yeah.
That would be unbelievable, so, yeah,
All
so
things
hopefully.
considering like cost of material, now everything's up, you know, and,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, it's a bit different back then when it was built compared to now, so it's a little bit more up there expensive, yeah.
But those properties really do need, I mean, they have to be, you know, they really have to be updated.
Yeah.
They just have to be. They're really old buildings. They're very inefficient. They don't have the interior spaces are just not really conducive to living, especially in Moore Court, with families. So it really, and the Moore Court property doesn't really maximize the use of the land on the property the way we could really create more units there. So, you know, I think it's time that we have to do something to upgrade these buildings anyway. So this is the time to really start planning while we're doing Melrose, because then at least we have some flexibility on where people can live while we're rehabbing the other buildings.
And it'd be more modernized and more energy efficient, you know, bringing it up,
yeah.
which brings down the cost of electricity.
And adding, you know, so to add 111 units,
Yeah.
while it's not tomorrow, you know, it's definitely,
That's true.
I mean, it will be a
Yeah.
big increase, you know, and that would be a huge increase for our portfolio. I mean, that, you know, right now we have 300 units plus all of our Section 8. I mean, to add another 111 units, it's a lot. It's a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so a big piece of this will also be having to relocate the Melrose offices to a different site, and so that's another
Step.
thing another step that has to be planned for. We need to have offices that are, you know, for all of the people that we employ, and so finding that space is also critical.
Right.
Oh, are you planning on moving out? Melrose?
Oh, I kind of like that word. I like that. It's just so calm.
It is great.
It is like,
Yeah.
oh man,
Yeah.
that is rough.
Yeah.
To me, that's a great idea. It's awesome.
Well, great.
Well, if you have any questions, let us know. And
Yeah,
Michelle,
yeah, I have a
I
lot
don't know
of
if you have
faith in
anything you wanted to share.
Well, just, I have a lot of faith in, you know, the people that we've hired, and Chris and Christine have experience in this, and so I feel like it's being well organized and well run. All right, the second piece of the project is the SASH for All pilot project. So that's,
We talked to
about
Jake.
that.
I will just give you a brief update. So we just, you know, so we have, so we have funding through the end of, we have one more cycle of funding. So we have one more year of the program, but we're just continuing to get more, you know, apply for more grants and more funding because we really want to replicate it around the state. And so that work is continuing. But our pilot project is set for at least minimum another year, which is great. It just takes a long time to really build the program and to replicate, you know, to be able to replicate it. We just finished a very extensive plan, which I'm still getting through. It's about 40, I don't even know how many pages. 46 pages. And so we had the whole program evaluated by VIII. She's done an amazing job. So we're really, we're reviewing that, and it's really helpful to have that. It feels like we're really approaching this need systematically and deliberately, as opposed to just winging it. So so that feels really good.
Fantastic. The Housing Opportunities Incorporated financial statement on the green page.
Yeah, so we will be, so as you know, we've received $90,000 so far, $90,375 so far towards the playground. All of that will be coming out of the budget very soon, because we have just paid for the playground equipment, and so we'll continue to be raising money. I know that we're also raising money. We have other small grants that are out there. We received a dental grant, and also a Hannaford's food grant specifically to have cooking programs at our senior and our sites that serve seniors and adults with disabilities. So those programs will be at Red Clover, Samuel Elliott Apartments, and Hayes Court over the next year. basically they're programs to just have like communal food and cooking, so
That's
it'll be
great.
great. Yeah. And that will be run by the SASH program.
Yeah, I think, and now this, on the sites, I think they show them how to do it.
Mhm.
I think we had the food and then we're shown how to
Okay.
prepare the food.
Cooking class.
Do they hire a chef or somebody come down to the
Yeah,
co-op?
I'm not sure
or-
how they, I
I
don't
don't know
know
how it
how,
works, but they will be shown how to do it, be a good meal.
Yeah.
I don't know if a chef comes and does it or not, but they'll
Yeah.
show us how to do it.
it's a pretty substantial grant, so I think it does,
It is.
it will cover to hire someone besides the food.
Right, 'cause usually the hospital usually has someone like up here
Yeah,
at BH.
they'll do it and then we'll learn a little, but I think so that really knows what they're doing, we'll do it.
Sharing
Sure.
food does bond
It does,
people, and
yeah.
it's
It's
talking about
yeah.
increasing trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Healthy
really
choice,
important to
yeah,
share meals.
absolutely.
You bring food, yeah, they'll be there.
Okay, so the board business, we are going to, because Alicia can't be here, there'll be a couple things we won't tackle today.
So we
wanna
won't tackle, so the first one I will tell you is, we have the updated board calendar, which you approved last month, so I just have I emailed these to you, but I just brought copies in case you want a physical copy to take home. And then, the next piece is we still have one vacancy on the board. And the town will be, making that appointment sometime in June.
Mm.
So we have, so far 4 applicants that,
Were interviewed already or? Now, you interview not the select board, correct?
we don't interview them, we give them a briefing, we
Okay.
go over what the roles and responsibilities are. And then the board could make, board chair will make a recommendation based on those interactions.
Right.
And basically what the board needs are, and the community needs, and then, but the select board will interview each individual applicant, and then they will make that determination.
Got it.
So we've had 4 applicants so far, and we've interviewed 3. We've not interviewed, we've completed the briefing with 3. And then we will continue to look for people until the June meeting. And so there is the town is hosting a board and committee
Oh, yeah.
night at the,
I think at the library.
It's at the library.
It's like a committee fair
it is.
for committees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
And off the top of my head, I don't remember what it is, but I do know that BHP will be there.
yeah.
So if people are interested, look up on the library calendar, it's on there, and so we'll be there representing BHP and talking to anybody who's interested in joining the board.
Along with, I mean, if anyone comes along with any other applicants that might have put in already, so I guess, here's the thing, I don't know. I'll have to think about this, hold on. It's kind of, you know, I thought like with select board, I thought it was like a certain time, once they do the committee warnings, but see, since they just started with the new people and other stuff, normally it doesn't take 3 months.
I know that they're doing it in June. I know
Yeah,
that,
so
they've
now
told
they're
me
doing
that.
it in June, normally if there's a need to put someone in there for a quorum,
Mhm.
they usually, but since they're putting it off, so it's like, I had to talk to the town, I said, well, we don't have a quorum.
Yeah, I don't know the back end
Yeah.
about that, but yeah. I do know that they wanted to wait at least because I knew that they wanted to wait for a little bit just because they did have all these new board members and they had a lot to get through, and so that made
Right.
sense. Normally our timing wouldn't have been, it would be June anyway. The only reason we have this opening is because we had a resignation, so normally it would be June. Then it's planned, it's easier to plan because it's natural that there's always one board chair empty, but because we had a board chair that was empty unexpectedly, that's why there's a little bit of a
Right,
timing issue.
now how many on the board for the viewers out there?
5. That's it. That's all. And we only can have 5 members.
That's it,
But we could have committee members if people wanted to join committees. We're always looking for people to join our Brattleboro Housing Opportunities Inc. board,
join up,
which is the nonprofit board.
absolutely.
Great, so we'll table the other 2 pieces.
Sure. Yeah, the other two were just talking about an employee celebration. Alicia wanted to bring that up. And
Oh,
then,
okay.
Also a board retreat, which Alicia wanted to talk with the board. So we'll wait till she's back. And
Oh,
she
okay.
can have that conversation with the members. I think just start thinking about what you would like that to look like. Do you want it to be a half day? Do you want it to be on the weekend? Do you want it to be a full, what would you really like that to look like?
So this is like a Brattleboro retreat? No, I mean, like a
Or
forum?
like a board, like a retreat, like a education slash,
Yeah.
get to know you retreat so that we can work better together.
I go for the weekend.
Scott Farm there. Great night.
Great. Okay. Anything else?
So I can think, I mean, we pretty much covered everything
We
and,
did.
Do you want to open up? Do you have anything else, Liz, that you wanted to add?
Well, you were talking about people not getting along with each other. I thought maybe you could write a nice letter in our building. I'm sure you got it all over.
Yes.
In order for us to get along, don't gossip about other people. Don't stick your nose in other people's business. If you do that, then everyone can get along. But if you keep butting your nose in this and this and this, that's why we have the trouble.
And I do remember very specifically, sorry to interrupt you, but I do remember very specifically that your housing site worked on some community guidelines. They're framed
Yeah.
around the building, and I would point people to those as a good reference because you all have come up with those guidelines. So I think if people, you've all decided what those guidelines are, and so that work has, it has been done, and we did publicize it, and we had them framed around the building.
Yeah, but it doesn't say about not specifically saying, don't stick your nose in other people's business. That's why we have trouble. So please just stay to yourself, be nice to other people, and don't gossip about other people.
We'll look at those guidelines together soon.
I hope so.
Somebody that's really, really smart helped the community put them together.
Yeah.
He's really good at what he does. No. But yeah, I worked on that with you, you know what I mean? So I would be more than happy to do that with Linda at some point soon. And if
And
it
I do
needs to be
think they do
amended,
encompass being, taking care of yourself, not being, negative towards other people, not always telling people what to do. I do think that they are pretty specific about just how to be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
I think I think you get any community, you're going to get that. Like I used to say, the high rise, this is our community, just like our neighborhood community. But you're going to get, no matter what, you're going to get those in everyone. And you don't like it, but how you want to change them.
We have too many in our building. That makes it worse.
So the other thing we did as a staff, we did this really great 3-part training through Restorative Justice and Youth Services around essential communication and how to be a better communicator, listening, and also how to listen to other people, but also how to communicate better yourself. And we've been talking a lot about bringing that to the property to help people get the tools to have these difficult conversations so that they don't escalate.
That would be great.
All of the communities, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially not the family ones, not more Court Ledgewood, I think more you take.
Yes.
We also just applied for a grant through the town, which we received, but we haven't implemented it yet. We applied for it with Tripart, and it's specifically for mediation services.
Yeah,
So
that's
bringing in mediators. But I think the challenging part of that is that a mediator isn't going to say like you're right and you're wrong. It's going to be able to facilitate how to have a conversation and how to appreciate each other's point of view and come to compromises. And so I'm really hopeful for that program. So that with the essential communication, it's sort of like a 2-parter of like, this is how we're starting so that people can have those tools. And then also when that doesn't work, you already have those tools set up so that you can then sit down with a mediator and be able to listen to other people and then also be able to effectively communicate back. So
Teach
So
you how
we do have
to
some
yes.
We do have some plans in place. And I do appreciate our support staff who have done a lot of this work and have sat down with people and come up with these guidelines. And just because we do that work, a lot of people do follow it.
Yeah.
It's just a small handful of people who don't.
Yeah.
And that can be really disruptive, but most people do. And so I think really being more mindful about appreciating those who are adding to the community instead of us always trying to just saying that it's all bad, because it really isn't.
No.
We have 73 households in Ridge Clover Commons, and the majority of people in that community are doing great things.
Got it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Love my neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
Motion to adjourn,
I move where we adjourn.
And we second it.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, yeah, thank you, and thank you, Jake, for coming. Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome.
Move to approve.